Welcome back to Win is Win Football Podcast. In today's episode, there isn't much to talk about currently in the world of football.
There's a lot of different things going on.
There are some interesting things to talk about, but
a bit different this time.
Today's episode is a flashback, you know? Back to the good old days.
When Iraq was at war.
When Iraq was at war.
Which one?
So many.
Many to choose from.
We were in the middle of a sectarian war. We were invaded. Our citizens were being killed.
Fantastic.
I was 10 years old.
Yes.
Approximately.
Depending on who you ask.
Yes. Today we're taking a flashback to the legendary Iraqi national team that won the Asia Cup in 2007, Iraq's first Asia Cup, with zero expectations on them. In a country under a collapsed regime, sectarian war, no funding for the national team, a corrupted government, and despite all odds, managed to go all the way.
Being the only positive influence in the country at the time.
For probably the past 30, 40 years.
Yes. So, before we dive into the team itself, we should do some background, give some context to what is this team? What are we talking about? How I think we should start like the situation in Iraq.
Yes.
What was it like?
So let's take it back to the 90s.
Yes.
At the 90s, as you know, Iraq was ruled by a dictator.
Yes.
His name was Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein.
A great centre-back. A legendary centre-back. Saddam Hussein...
He struck fears in the attackers.
Yeah. Saddam Hussein had two sons. One of them was Udai Hussein. The other one was... I forgot it.
Not important for this story.
Udai and Qusay.
Yeah.
Okay. Udai was one of Saddam's son that had control over the national team and also over the national TV.
Yes.
He was responsible for the TV channels. And one of the reasons that so many Iraqis are either support Real Madrid or Barcelona is because the only channels that he controlled,
that he showed,
only showed Barcelona or Real Madrid. So you either had to choose one of them. But during the 90s, the Iraqi national team was good among the Gulf countries. It was a respectable national team among the Gulf countries. At that point, we only managed to reach the World Cup, and still the only time that we reached the World Cup was back in '68, where we managed to get one draw. We have 1 point from the World Cup, and we still, and we still are very proud of it.
As we should be.
As I should be. But never won the Asia Cup. Not really a powerhouse in Asia. But the interesting thing back in the 90s was under the dictator's son, these players were getting tortured. He had
not physically, mentally, everything.
Every aspect that you could think
torture,
of. Udai tortured these football players.
Yes.
He had a slaughterhouse. He had a chamber for slaughter.
Yes.
Just for Iraqi national team players. And one example of that showed in real life, or like on live TV, was a penalty shootout versus Kuwait in the Gulf Cup, where the players were so afraid of stepping up
because they knew what would happen if they missed.
Yeah.
What would happen to them? So nobody wanted to step up.
You know how motivational speakers say, always take your shot?
Yeah.
This time,
it was the reverse. Don't take it.
So the players there was a debate about who would go step up to the penalty, because if you miss, you get tortured.
You and your family. It was
You and your family.
not only yourself, you put
Yeah.
your entire family at risk.
Yeah, and we lost that penalty.
So a lot of people.
Yeah, torture doesn't work apparently. Damn it. So there was a lot of control from the dictatorship around the national team, and we didn't really have much success. And then you fast forward to 2003. Okay, Saddam's dictatorship comes to an end. The U.S. invades Iraq, and in the background, if we look from a football perspective, there is a new generation that starts to grow. The same generation that would go on to win the Asia Cup in 2007.
Right.
But back then, they played in the Asia Youth under 20 and Asia Cup for under 17, and they managed to get some good results.
Yeah.
And so this was a promising generation. Then the regime falls. Fast forward 1-2 years, the country went from a dictatorship and full control over the country.
Yeah.
Nobody has a voice, to an anarchy.
Yeah, yes, survive for yourself.
Survive for yourself. Now the country is split into sectarianism. You have the Shia Muslims, you have the Sunni Muslims, you have the Kurds in the north, and then you have all these militias. You have Al Qaeda in Iraq. You have Jaish al Mahdi. You have all these sectarianism and different big countries trying to
influence
gain power in the country. And it was a very dangerous time. At that time, kidnapping was very common. Killing in the streets was very common. Bombing, control stops in the middle of the street. They would ask you for your name. If it indicated that you're Sunni and it's a Shia control, you get killed.
Yeah.
If the Shia militia sees a Sunni guy in the middle of the street, you would get killed. So in the middle of this chaos, and I was living at the time, I was born 97, this was like in my childhood. I was 6 years old when the invasion happened and when Saddam fell. And the only thing we could really turn to
at that time
was football. It's the ultimate escape from reality, and that's why I love football. It was, nothing has ever simplified life for a moment more than football.
Because during that 90 minutes,
you can bomb the shit out of everything. I don't care.
As during the 90 minutes different.
The only thing I care about is this 90 game.
And during those 90 minutes, it's not only that you don't really care. The Kurds, the Shias, the Sunnis, they all care about the same thing. It's a uniting force between these people that usually are at fight with each other.
Exactly.
So now you have a institution that is the only sole thing that is connecting the people.
The only unifier in this big ball of shit.
Yeah, catastrophe.
Yeah. And so you fast forward 2004 Olympic Games in Greece.
Yeah.
Iraqi, the same generation
that had been playing well previously,
that had been doing well in the youth ages, plays in the Olympics, and in the group stages, Iraq faces Portugal. And who plays in the Portugal team?
Is
Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo. Guess the result. 4-2.
Yeah.
Guess the man of the match.
Mahmoud.
It wasn't Ronaldo.
Yeah.
It was a guy called Younis Mahmoud, who would go on to become the biggest legend in Iraqi football, and one of the human. If you look at Iraqi history, the guy with the biggest balls, I would say. Like the mentality on this guy is
insane.
Because if we're talking about mentality in football,
because usually when we talk about mentality, it's like, he wants to win, he wants to stand up for his team. This guy, there's so much.
He performs in the Champions League final. This guy performed under political pressure.
Families under threat. People are dying. If you don't perform, people will get
and he
killed.
delivered
Every
every
time.
single time.
Yeah.
So Younis Mahmoud is the number 9. And when I say number 9, he is the ultimate number 9. He is that hunter for goal.
Yeah.
He has that goal instinct. He is good at heading. He is there, and he's the Van
box.
Nistelrooy. He's a Van Nistelrooy type. Not the Raúl type. He's a Van Nistelrooy type.
Yeah.
And so we progress through the group stages.
What other key players would you say that you had in that team except for Younis Mahmoud?
So now all these small players start to grow. So first you have Younis Mahmoud is the big star. He's the striker.
Yeah.
And then around him you have on the right wing Hawar.
Yeah.
Hawar. So Younis Mahmoud is Sunni.
Yeah.
Hawar on the right wing is Kurdish. He is the Kurdish Messi, as we call him. And he is left-footed, very skillful, talented, good at assisting, scoring when you need him to. He was the creator in that right wing.
Yeah.
And then in the midfield, you have the midfield maestro, Nashat Akram. It's not really sure his sectarianism.
Yeah.
Could be Shia. The name indicates that he's Shia.
Yeah.
And so you had these three that were
The big
boys,
stars.
where Younis Mahmoud was the biggest one.
Yeah.
And you also had some heroes that needs to mention, like a player called Ahmad. And to fast forward in the Olympic Games, we played Australia in the quarterfinals, and nobody expected us to win at the time.
Of course.
And we beat Australia 1-0 when he did the bicycle kick.
And who did the bicycle?
Ahmad.
Ahmad.
Yeah. He has a lesser role in the Asia Cup 2007
win.
because he becomes older.
Yeah.
But he was a huge hero back in 2004. So now
After
you
the-
fast forward. It's now like the first first 2 years after the invasion, after 2003, things are unstable. But it's still
looking
manageable.
good. It's
Like
looking good.
there is a new prime minister that is temporary. The country has hopes for the future. We still are in a revolutionary era, you would say. Then comes the militias, then comes the sectarians, and then comes So 2006 was one of the worst years ever. My uncle, a doctor, kidnapped and killed many doctors, many teachers, many engineers. The educated class,
educated people.
they went after them. They killed as many as they could.
Yeah.
This is the time when everyone started emigrating to
started to
Europe,
flee.
to America, because the country was inhabitable at this point. So the build-up to 2007 Asia Cup, the government is corrupt.
Yeah. There's internal conflict between everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
There is zero economic support for the national team.
Yes.
There is the talent, but there is no structure, infrastructure
That supports them in any way
possible. These players are still playing in the Iraqi league.
Yeah.
Some have moved abroad to Qatar, but they're not really known yet.
Yeah.
And then before the Asia Cup, and also a very important thing is Iraq didn't play at home. We couldn't play in Iraq.
You had no stadium.
We weren't allowed by FIFA rules.
Yeah.
So our home games were either in Qatar or Jordan.
So you had to travel to play at
Our
your
home was away.
Yeah. And the fan situation, how were the fan situation when you played your home games?
Horrible.
Yeah.
There wasn't like that much support, and there's also, even in the countries that we played in Jordan, it's not really the nicest. Like, we're not the best neighbors.
Yeah.
Neither are we with Qatar. Qatar is a bit better relationship, but it's not like the Arabs don't really. Arab countries in between is not the warmest of relations. So then, fast forward to before the 2007 Asia Cup starts. You have manager leaving, the guy that helped us reach the semifinal in the Olympics. Has been fired because we didn't manage to get to the World Cup 2006. And then now you have a new interim manager just coming in randomly last second called Oliveira, Brazilian. managed some not really known, managed Egypt before, managed like some national teams, but not really well-known character.
For anything, yeah.
The players, the Asia Cup 2007 was held in Malaysia and Indonesia, and when the players reached the tournament, the flight tickets were not ready.
Yep.
The hotel was not ready.
It wasn't booked. There was
it wasn't booked. There was tension a lot between these players. There is a huge ego between the Shias and the Sunnis, and also the ego within themselves between the Younis and Hawar and Nashat. It wasn't really a harmonious group. So it's not so. Even in the situation, the bad situation that you are in, it's not even that the group is united. Generally,
it's not that we fight for this together. There's still the internal conflict surrounding it.
Exactly. So the Asia Cup starts. First game
of the season, of the campaign
against Thailand.
Yeah,
a weak team. With all due respect, in football terms,
in Asia,
in Asia Cup, it's considered a weak team. This is a team that you should beat if you want to win anything. If you want to do anything noteworthy in the Asia Cup, 1-1. We play horrendously.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the pressure started piling, because you have this big generation, you have the entire country. This is the only thing they care about. Yeah. This is the only thing that unites the entire country. And there was probably an internal dialogue within the group at this point. Because the next game was against one of the favorites in the Asia Cup, Australia. The best game Iraq has ever played, in my opinion.
Yeah.
3-1. The passes were amazing. The free kicks were amazing. Nashat scores, Nashat assists, Younis scores. This is the team that had Tim Cahill and also had the Howard goalkeeper. No, he's from America.
No, not the Howard.
No, he had Schwarzer. What's the name of the...
Michael Schwarzer.
Michael Schwarzer. So these are established players.
That play at high level.
So this is a generation that beat Cristiano's Portugal beat a pretty established Australian team.
Yeah.
This is the game that for me turned the tournament around.
Because now you know.
Now the songs started coming in Iraq. Now the people start singing for the national team. When the most famous artists start chanting and creating certain songs and chants and supporting the team. Now you get the full backing. The last game, you need to get top of the group. We got a 0-0 draw versus Oman.
Yeah.
Enough to top the group.
Just to be number one.
Yeah. Now, you go to the quarterfinal, because in Asia Cup we don't have round of 16. We're too little. In the quarterfinals, you play Vietnam. And this is more like Thailand. The same vibe as Thailand. This is a team that you should beat. Younis Mahmoud, 2 goals, free kick, and then a normal header. Younis Mahmoud is known for his headers.
Yeah, but now it's the semifinals against the big boy.
Now we're talking the top level.
Yes.
Of Asia.
South Korea.
South Korea, we are playing them.
Yeah.
And then the other semifinal is between Saudi Arabia and Japan.
Yeah.
And the favorites are clearly, it's South Korea and Japan. Japan and Saudi Arabia are the country with the most Asia Cups. They have historically been the best teams. And at that time, I remember it's almost like, if I describe the feeling, it's like facing City of like you as Arsenal facing City back in 2022, 2021.
You knew you were gonna lose.
In relation, it's that kind of
difference.
It's that kind of vibe. It's like, we need to survive.
Just keep the numbers now.
Just survive.
Yeah.
And survive, we barely did. Like, this was a struggle for 180 minutes.
Yeah.
This was a struggle. There was barely any chances back and forth. Like, they controlled the game. We survived somehow. And
the goalkeeper.
Wow. Yeah. Noor Sabri.
Yeah.
That's the 4th cornerstone
of this team.
Yeah. And also, we have to also mention Basim and Jasim. the two bald heads in the back. These guys, throughout the tournament, it became a thing that any long ball that would come near the back line, they would bicycle kick. You can just head it.
Please.
These two had a competition. They're like, who would bicycle kick the most? So imagine every long ball that went into near the penalty area, just bicycle kick out. Any ball that went near the goal, Nur Sabri got it.
Yeah.
You also have to mention the CDM. The Yaya Torre, the Casemiro. No, he's more technical than Casemiro.
Not that difficult.
The guy from Basra.
Yeah.
He's one of the most underrated players in Iraq's history.
Yeah.
And I forgot his name.
That's how underrated it is.
That's how underrated it is. But he was really good. So this backline and the CDM held together that game.
Yeah.
And we get to penalties. Nur Sabri
Wow.
saves. We win.
And you're through.
And we are through to the final. Now this is where, like before Korea, we didn't really believe.
Yeah. But
We
now,
were like, this is a great achievement, but we don't believe.
yeah.
But now
You're
we
in the
beat
final.
one of the favorites.
And you're in the final.
We're in the final.
90 minutes away from glory.
This is a country, this is a people that have been starving
Yeah.
for anything to feel joy about for the past
anything.
4 years.
Anything
Not even
positive.
4 years. Since the 70s.
Yeah.
The country has been through a dictatorship, an Iran war for 8 years. Then they went through a Kuwait war that the US beat our asses.
Yeah.
Then we went through sanctions by 52 countries for 10 years. And then we get invaded by the US, 2003. And then after that, we get a sectarian war where we have a civil war, basically, in the
Yeah.
country.
Yes.
And everyone is at danger. Everyone is euphoric, okay? Everyone is out in the street. I remember I lived in a village in southern part of Iraq.
Yeah.
And back then, we so basically we were threatened, okay?
Yeah.
And in order to be defended
Yeah.
around our house, we had to, let's say, be friends with some not the
shady
nicest
people.
not the nicest, some shady people. So there were different. So it's like the mafia.
Yeah.
We weren't part of the mafia.
But you need protection.
Our cousin's cousin knew this guy.
Yeah.
And he had a gang. And they had guns and they had protection. So we got threatened. The police is corrupt. They
won't help you.
There is no law in this country.
Like you said, anarchy. You just have to defend for
You
yourself.
just have to defend for yourself. So
You have to
these guys
survive.
kind of like, they help defend around our house. They monitor the things around our house. So we spend a lot of time with them. We watch the game with them as well. We go out after the win, and then we start like, and this is in the middle of the forest.
Yeah.
They start shooting, and this is a norm in Iraq.
This is what you
in
do.
weddings,
Yeah.
sometimes, and when we win,
Yeah.
everyone goes out
In
with
the
their
streets.
car in the streets, and it's just full in the streets. And then, unfortunately, they did it too much.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people.
a lot of people died. So
Horrible thing to laugh at.
horrendous. So a lot of people, like, because of the shooting, the bullet
Bullets
falls
drop
back,
down eventually.
so people die. So now these players, this generation of football team in Iraqi history has managed to accomplish one of the greatest achievements in Iraqi football history.
Just by reaching the final.
Just by reaching the final. And what they get rewarded with
It's more people.
is more people. So as a result of them winning, they cause more death,
Yeah.
they think. And
So they have this internal dialogue within themselves and in the team. Like,
Yeah.
are we even supposed to play it? Like, what do we do in this situation? Some people
and there
didn't
was
want to.
there was a car bombing as well in the
Yeah.
middle of the celebration, because at the time you were afraid of gathering.
of going out in public.
No, just large gatherings.
Yeah.
Because every large gathering was like an opportunity
For people to give a statement.
for militias to bomb.
yeah.
So there was a car bomb in the middle of a gathering. So that's where the dialogue starts.
And
The players start.
like, should we even play this game? Should we even why are we even playing? Because what we are doing leads to these things that are more horrible.
Because the thing that united these players
Yeah.
was the better for the country, to unite the country. But
now they're seeing there's some negative consequences of their performances.
Yeah.
So the players were, as we've said, there were so many things going on, pressure for them, but now they have another thing on top of it.
Yeah. And it's
Which
a horrendous,
makes you question yourself.
Imagine as a result of like my achievement, somebody dies.
Yeah.
It's a horrendous feeling, you know. All I've worked for is this moment, and then as a side effect, you hear someone died. And so one of the sons in this accident where the car bombing happened, the mom of one of the victims that died came out and on TV in public and just supported them and told them to go all out for the final and wish them luck for the final.
Yeah, because she was her statement very powerful, very emotional. She was the one that pretty much convinced some of the players, like, yeah, this is what we need to do.
Yeah,
she like put out the fire within their minds.
Exactly.
That maybe we should not play, but after hearing what she said, they're like, yes, we have to do it for the people.
Exactly.
Even if these things have happened, this is what we need to do.
And what's happening on the other semi-final is that Saudi Arabia manages to beat a very good Japan team.
Yeah.
And the final is Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Now let me give you some context. Okay, the country is split into Shia and Sunni.
Yeah.
The countries that I told you about before that were kind of like using maybe supporting here and there different sides is, so for the Sunni side you have the Saudi Arabians, for the Shia side you have Iran, and Iran and Saudi Arabia, they have this big Cold War going on for like 30 years now. So facing Saudi Arabia, there is still this tension. I remember before, like there was, because we lived in a Shia-dominated area. Like it's a very Shia. My family, my closest friends, my dad's side is all of them are Shia. So supporting or like, and some Sunnis were accused of supporting Saudi Arabia
because they wanted the Sunnis to win.
Exactly.
Rather than their team.
Rather than their national team. So there was this. There was
always some sort of conflict.
There was always. And thank God we didn't face Iran, because oh boy. Oh Lord, because it would have been civil war in the tournament.
Times 10.
So we faced Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is like, there are some suspicions, unverified, verified, we don't know, that they might have contributed to Al-Qaeda here and there. They might have contributed to some Sunni militias in that time. And
like you said, everyone wanted their side to win, so they, no matter what you think,
their pizza bite.
Of course, they want
slice.
They want their slice, so they will contribute in some capacity.
So we go into the final. Okay. Saudi Arabia has beaten, and not by penalties, 2-1, I think, the result 3-2 against Japan, convincingly. We beat South Korea on penalties, barely.
By surviving.
Yeah, and now you have this big battle between Younis Mahmoud, the main striker in Iraq, and the
center back,
the center forward for Saudi Arabia, his nickname was the Hunter.
Yeah.
Like he could hit the goal from anywhere in the field. And Iraq, somehow, around the 60th, 70th minute, Younis Mahmoud pops up from a corner kick. His head is the tallest one, and just heads it, corner goal, boom, wins the entire Asia Cup. And that, I don't think any moment in football will ever over-exceed that moment. The euphoria in that moment, and not even like Decima.
Nothing.
Decima is the best thing I've ever. La Decima winning back in 2014 for Real Madrid as a Real Madrid supporter was probably the biggest thing that happened for me as a Madrid supporter. Multiply that by 10.
And that's what you get.
That's the feeling of 2007.
Because nobody would ever in their mind say, Iraq should or could win this.
It was against all odds. It is really like, you know how they make these cartoons about football, about how you overexceed all the odds and then you unite, and that this was it.
This is like a TV show.
Yeah, this is like Captain Tsubasa.
It's not real.
It's not real, and for a moment, it wouldn't last long because in Iraq history, nothing lasts long. But for a moment, the country breathed out, breathed in, celebrated. Some great songs came out of that that we sing till today.
Yeah.
Shia, Sunnis, Kurds, for a moment united
together.
And at that time, we were on the verge of immigrating from Iraq.
Yeah.
There was a moment where we were thinking, hey,
maybe.
Imagine that's the power of football.
The power of this team.
For me, nothing. Very I probably not that well into African football.
Yeah.
But for me, in football history, few teams have had such an impact on a country
as this Iraq team.
And it really, for me, that's when I started loving football. The 2006 World Cup, that's where my interest for football started.
But this
was next level.
Yeah.
And then after that, I realized the importance of football. It's 90 minutes of escapism.
Yes.
And nothing is as good as escapism as football.
Not even escape. It has this weird gravity that unites the people around you.
We met.
Yeah.
We started talking. Our first conversations were football, and I lost a thing on the closet, but also football.
Yeah.
Some football. Dila, football. All my high school friends, football. That's how I became friends with them. All my middle school friends, I became friends with them through football. So that, I mean, it's a powerful thing, man.
It is really difficult to explain because there are many sports in the world.
Yeah.
But nothing has given me any hint of indication that it has the power that football does. Because nothing unites people in the same way that football does.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like it's not even the oldest sport, is it?
No.
It's not the oldest sport. It's a good mix of team and individuals.
Yeah.
You have the stories and you have the systems. And that's why I hate modern football so much.
That's a different discussion.
But that's why it kills the spirit of this game that we love.
Yeah, because
it makes it robotic. It
makes these kinds of performances
stories impossible. The Leicesters, the Iraqs of 2007.
These are what we need for the sport to survive, to be in a good place.
Yeah, so now you have the PSGs, you have the Cities, you have all these teams that
we talked about. Financial heritage. That's all it is about.
It kills the spirit of the game.
Yeah, for sure, most definitely. But after the win, then, in the country, you said it was a moment of.
For a moment, there was hope.
You could finally relax.
Yeah, there was a moment of relief.
Maybe we can.
Euphoria.
Yeah.
Maybe we can unite.
Yeah.
This showed that we can unite. But as always, politics. Politics is politics. Eventually, it's like this feeling faded. These players become well known. Younis Mahmoud becomes, I think, chosen as Asia's best player. He moves to Qatar. Nashat Akram was about to move to City back then, before City was City. But there was a problem with the visa. So he went to Twente in Netherlands, and then he moved to Saudi Arabia, and then his career kind of down. Hawar is the main one that succeeded. He went to Europe, played for a club in Cyprus, and was the first Iraqi player to score in the Champions League. And it still unites. We didn't manage to get to the World Cup 2010 with that golden generation. The corruption still went on. Vieira left the team after that, after the Asia Cup. It's just for a moment. But that's why I say escapism.
Yeah.
It gives you hope.
But it just
But then you have to go back to reality.
it's like a facade over true reality.
And football can also be used for the good and sometimes for the bad. It's a very
fragile thing.
It's a very fragile thing because dictators can also use football for their propaganda.
Yeah.
But also, dictators, like revolutions against dictatorships, can start in the football stadiums.
Yeah, in these moments.
2011, the Arab Spring, Egyptian fans, the revolutions and the protest started in the stadiums, in the National League in Egypt. So that's where football is. It's a
powerful thing.
It's a powerful force, and it can be used for the good and the bad. And in this, it was for the good for a moment.
And this team will forever. And this story, I feel like it's not spoken about enough because we all know about Leicester and whatnot. But this team, what this team achieved, and what they did, despite the context, despite the circumstances. I don't think there are many people on earth that has been under that pressure and performed and delivered such an important victory for themselves and for their nation.
That's big balls. That's why winners win. Because imagine if we lost in the final.
If we lost,
do you think we would have remembered like the 2007?
You wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't be.
Younis, Mahmoud, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now that's a winner's win.
That is the winner's win.
That is the.
I think we should have like a picture of him here.
Younis Mahmoud.
Just every time we had to.
And then imagine every time they watch the episode, they're like, who?
Yeah, but we had to spread the name.
Yeah.
Actually, this is one of our goals. We have
and now he is one of the ministers, part of the Iraqi Federation.
Yeah.
And he is building this new generation that didn't manage to reach the World Cup.
Yet.
But he did some good stuff. He brought in a Spanish manager. He's allowing this young generation to come. He's allowing players from abroad to join the national team. He's doing some good things. So I like it.
It's slow and steady.
You need a man with personality, and I think
he's the one that can give.
If anyone can fix Iraq in the future, I think if he becomes a politician, I hope he can fix it. But he will become a dictator for sure.
These people,
they either
he has
become
the ego. He has the ego of a dictator.
The goats, they either goats of sports or they become dictators.
I think who I think would be a great dictator. Mourinho.
Oh,
this guy, he would rally the entire country behind him.
Trump has nothing
on this guy's charisma.
Mourinho.
This guy, I promise you, he would unite everybody.
Yeah.
And he would
make them hate everyone else.
And it's like it's us.
Portugal would go to war with Spain the day after,
and he would beat them.
He would beat them.
Defensive structure and
counterattacks.
The only thing he needs,
Iran strategy.
And he would build a missile on top. He would build a Drogba's head. Yes, and
then you have John Terry heading back on the rocket. Perfect.
This is the story of the great Iraqi team.
The great Iraqi team.